Hello YouTube, I'm Elwirfy and today we're going to be moving on to the painting of the Predator Annihilator tank. Alright, so check it out, I finished it. I'm going to take off that top part which I didn't glue on purpose. Let's just take a look at the final product here. You see we got these las cannons nicely secured. Now, I will have to say, it did not go according to plan. They're a little off. Las cannons aren't perfect. But when you look at it from afar, honestly, I can't really tell that much, and it's not that bad. And I think the tank overall actually looks really good, considering I didn't correctly interpret the instructions. So now we're going to move on to the painting, and I wanted to show off the paints we're going to be using today. So today we're going to be using the Citadel Mephiston Base Red. That's what I like to use. It really works well with the spray paint. I'm also going to be using the Citadel Black, I don't actually know it, Abaddon Black paint. I'm not quite too sure. A paint drop spilled from there, which is fine. And then for the weapons and such, we're going to be using the Iron Breaker paints. So all good stuff here, all good stuff. I like to shake my paint before I begin using it, and we're going to start off with the black because we're going to go ahead and do red afterwards as touch-up. So I'm just shaking the paint right now, and then I do have a plate over here off to the side that I will be using, and this might be a little bit of a more different-ish kind of video than the rest of them, just because I want to make it look good, right? You know, even though as much as I love doing these videos, making the tank actually look good is kind of more important. No offense. So, because of that, while I will show you as much as I can, I do have to prioritize the painting itself. So we're actually going to go ahead, open this guy wide up. Okay. And we're just going to think about how we want to do this. Now, I thought about it, and I decided to do the same thing I do with most of my tanks, which is I'm just gonna do all the edges, all the little crevices black, and make it pop. I like the popping that happens, and then on these top surfaces are going to be black as well, and I think that'll make it all look quite nice. And you'll see what I mean as we move on. Yes, I'm left-handed, for those of you who may not have known. Is it not? Hold on. Oh snap, did I run out of paint? I'll do what I can with the paint I have. Might have to go to the store and get more paint. So, what do I mean when I say I'm doing highlights? Let's just do what we can with the paint I have. Well, it means I'm going to take this guy, and I'm just going to go very lightly, very lightly. How am I going to do this? Just right in the crevices is where I want to paint. If you can see that. And remember, we can always use red to fix any mistakes that may or may not arise. And we just want to paint in the cracks. See that? And again, how it's black and now it's getting darker. So that's very, very good. We want that. We really do want to make the black kind of pop right there on the edges. I like to just cover this whole part, first part up with black. Yeah, you know what? I think I need more paint, perhaps. Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, because we're at the base of the paint. Yeah, my paint didn't dry out. I think I'm just running out of paint. But again, I'll paint what I can. Remember, we're using this paint more for highlighting, really, more than anything else. So it's not horrifying if we have to skip the black paint. We just move on to red paint, though. Granted, if I would go ahead and just buy new paint for all of them. Keep in mind, I use this paint, right, for essentially my whole army. I'm really working with my leftovers, trying to save money. But if I don't, yeah. Is there really no more paint? Well, I mean, there's some paint, right? So you take the paint, you kind of spread it around, And if you're wondering why I'm not putting it in water, there is a reason for that. One, this kind of paint doesn't really do too well with water, which is a shame, actually. I will say it does kind of suck, but it's just how it goes. So I'm doing the major outlines. I'll even hold it up so you can see where I'm putting the black on the sides and such. And then you remember how we had that gray part there? Well, it's going to be black anyway, so it's not really as big of a deal. Now, when you're painting on top of the glue, just keep in mind, well, for one, black is easier to use for cover-ups than the red ever could, right? Because black is darker, it's harder to see, so it's also harder to spot when something goes strange. Oh, okay, we still have a little bit of paint. All right, we still have some paint. I'm going to put the majority of it on the cover-ups first. I always like to prioritize the cover-ups where things are going a little astray here, right? And then just very carefully, slowly working our way up along there. Remember, we do have red paint, so any mistakes that happen can always be fixed. Never be afraid of painting your models, right? Because if you're ever afraid of painting the models, you're not ever going to make much in the way of progress in a positive sense, because when you go to paint your models, you need to accept that you're going to make mistakes. I'm making mistakes right now as I speak, because in all seriousness, I would recommend not recording while painting, because it can break your concentration sometimes, and eventually one thing will have to suffer over the other, and I'd rather the painting not be what suffers, as you can probably expect. But I would say, considering even with what I've told you, I'd say the paint is coming along quite nicely now. Again, I'm going to try and get as much paint out of this thing as I can. I really am. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. I want to paint as much as physically possible today, right now, before I have to go to the store and buy paint, even though that is inevitable. It's going to have to happen. Ultimately, I cannot paint everything, but as you can see, again, doing the outlines, right, even getting this little spot there just to really make sure it rounds out. And see on the back how there's this interior. You'll see it more as I paint on it, if it'll work for me, if it'll cooperate. Again, don't be afraid to, because black is the less common color, right? So that means red will always be a bit better. Now, something I like to do, it's kind of a stylistic choice for here. I like to paint this part black, actually. This corner. Plus, it's also a little bit of an excuse to make some mistakes when you're painting in the crevices, right? Can you see what I'm doing there? I hope you can. If I need to zoom in the camera more for, I guess, the eventual part 2. Maybe we have enough paint. I want to believe we have enough paint to get this done, but if we don't, it's okay. So yeah, just kind of painting the black corner. I want to even it out, so as well as just in general, this part's going to be black, so painting over all of this. See? Making a nice black corner there. We're going to have paint coming along this part. If you see that. As we make these long strokes. Keeps it nice and even. I'm maneuvering around the camera, so you can probably assume, as well as the concentration needed. I've always liked painting miniatures because I really like just kind of the feel you get, especially as you make some progress with the painting itself. And there's no rules, right? I could paint this any way that I chose. Now I'm going to try and hold it in such a way that you can see what I'm doing. Or maybe I'll just set it down there and you can probably see. Trying not to, looking at the camera, trying not to block necessarily what you guys are able to physically see. But again, painting along these edges here, You know, making it look nice. Well, nicer, I should say. It's not always going to be perfect. And again, painting on the inside here, making it all black. Symmetry is key, though. I will say this. For, especially with something like military stuff, in general, when you're painting it, and you have to, and it has to follow like a certain pattern, you do kind of want to make sure you have some symmetry. Because if it's not symmetrical, you can tell. Even if it's badly symmetrical, it's better than no symmetry at all. Because if there's no symmetry at all, then you're going to risk someone noticing other flaws. Right? You want your models to look as clean and crisp as possible. You want to look like either you're doing the stylistic choice of, oh, these are war-torn, so then you paint them to look war-torn. That doesn't mean you do less paint. That just means when you paint with the intention of maybe, you know, painting it so that way the colors look a bit faded. But not because your paint's faded, because you paint on multiple layers to make it faded. Never feel afraid to go back over what you've done as well to beef up what you've got. Oh, this paint's getting dry, like I assumed, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with doing multiple coats over your own work that you've already done. And as you can see, I mean, it's coming out pretty good for highlights here. I know it's black. What you can see, the darkness there, that is black. That is that's not unintentional darkness there. One part I like to paint black for this is the top of this part. If some paint would like to come off so you can see it, I like to paint that part black all around on the top. I leave the main parts red, of course, because you know it's still a red tank. We're still the Blood Angels, of course. We're not a. It's not as if this is a Death Company tank, though. I could probably pull that off if I make a horrifying mistake and it all goes bad. Yeah, this paint's really dry. Not a fan of the dry paint. Not a fan. But again, it's not going to look horrible. It might be a little thick. That's why we want to... See, made a mistake, but that's okay. If you can't tell, I made a mistake of making something black there, which I did not mean to make black. But again, that's why we'll go over the red paint with the red paint after this. But, you know, just painting over black on the outside edges on the top. You can already see it's kind of making it look more highlighted. It makes it, even though we're using black as a highlight, it does make it pop more. The red pops more when we use the black on the outside, which I think is super cool. I like black. Black is a good color. It's solid. It makes you question life, I guess. I don't know. Something symbolic and such in the grim dark when you're fighting things like orcs and your own kind sometimes, and you know, the Eldar and humans alike. You gotta have something to cling on to hope-wise, and this is not particularly a bad way to go about it. You gotta look fierce too, because if you don't look fierce, then obviously you're not gonna be that person who people flee from. They're gonna be like, oh, your tanks look like garbage. Well, can't be intimidated by that. So it's also a respect thing, this painting, which is why, while it's an art that's tough to master, and I am in no way a professional painter at all. I'd like to be. If I was, I think painting Warhammer stuff would be far easier. But since I know I'm not, I'll take what I can get. And see, now we have black on the outside there. That I think makes it look pretty good. Even if I have to come back over all this as the paint dries, and you gotta add layers. When you add layers, you tend to want to add layers in such a way that you're not having to go over stuff too much. And yes, the tire treads will be black, but I'm not painting the tire treads today because I'm not going to have enough paint And I like doing things in sections, right? I don't like not having like half painted things. If I'm gonna paint a part of an object, I want to finish that before moving on to the next part. Right? And you'll see, I mean, when this tank is done being painted, I'll show you guys the other tanks up close. Again, if you want, you can probably go to another video where I have tanks up close, and you'll be able to see the paint job I do on those. And I wish the paint was just a little more quantifiable. Not going too shabby, I'd say. If you look at it, I'm painting in the same direction and stuff, using just good basic art techniques. When you paint, you want to paint in the same direction when possible. But don't be afraid to mix things up to get into certain crevices. And black and red are also easy colors to paint. That is something I will say. If you're going to be painting an army that has like yellow or white, those are very difficult colors to paint. Black is by far the easiest to paint. Red is up there. I think green's also really easy to paint. But when you see those ultramarine armies that are blue and white, those people have dedication to their army more than I probably would, because I'd get frustrated, because painting white isn't as easy. It doesn't stick as well. It's tough, and I personally wouldn't enjoy that. Grey Knights are not actually unpainted. They actually use silver paint, which is not the same paint as I'm going to be showing you guys, but it will be fairly similar-ish looking. And notice I'm spending a lot of time on this. I'm not rushing any bit of this, even if it seems like I'm rushing it. You know, it has been 17 minutes and I've only done like a little bit of work on it. Certainly have not done every little bit. And I'm actually gonna slide this guy over here. We're gonna paint the top of this. For this one, even though this is a big area, I like to paint. Generally, I like to hold it and paint long strokes. Right, going around it, going across, making sure the black gets in everywhere that I want it to. Because I like having the top black. I like having the black on like the tops of things. I don't know. It makes it feel more scary and such, maybe. I don't know. I don't know why I like having black on the tops. It's just a personal stylistic choice. Traditionally, you wouldn't see this when I'm painting right now, but I think it gives my army a bit of a unique look. Wow, that is on thick. Okay. Yeah, this paint is definitely on its last limbs. But it's still coming out good. So until the paint starts getting like actually unusable, then I'll do it, because this paint is expensive. It's like $7 for that little paint can. And while, yeah, I painted a lot with this one little paint can. Like my Death Company, they were spray painted. They were not hand painted in any way at all. Even if you'd like to think that they were, you know, that I'd be able to get so much detail out of, you know, hand painting to get every single crevice, but that's just unrealistic. Hand painting is more for the details, it's not for the general spray body. So this black can was only used for the highlights that I used for my my Marines, and again my vehicles and such. And I'm only painting this top part black, just to be clear. I'm gonna paint the guns silver, and I have much more silver paint, trust me. The silver will glop on much nicer, but it's different to paint with. And I'll show you why silver has its own unique set of problems at times. Now, it's not perfect right now. I'm gonna keep putting on. I'm not afraid to keep using paint in any way, because like I said, I like to finish things when I start them. And I might have to call it here for the black painting for now, and I'll have to go to the store, even though for you it won't be that noticeable. of a difference. It's not like I'm going to change the environment or anything. So yeah, that's what that's going to look like. Let's see if I do want to paint some of these guns, if I can. Also, I like to paint the edges here. I like to paint these things. This top, like, miniature section, if you can see where I'm painting on top of right here, I think that having black here makes it look good. Just on the top of this section. But not the vent though, so it'll look really cool. Gonna probably put silver on the vent. I actually have some tanks I might go back to put more silver on, but just kind of painting the edges here again. Don't since black is the heart, you know, it's also the easiest to paint on top of. So as you're painting it, when you go to cover it up, it's not going to be horrible to cover up, you know. Like if I wanted to, I could paint this whole middle section here black, wait for it to dry, then paint over with the silver that way. I'm going to try not to. I don't really like painting over stuff that I accidentally painted, because making mistakes sucks, even though they're not the end of the world. See how we're able to paint it. And look, the tank already looks more lifelike, more realistic, even with the paint. Now this is hopefully the last time I'm going to be painting a model. So that's another reason I wanted to make the video now, because I was like, oh, I might not make any more models after this. I better teach everyone, or at least show off the process of building the tanks of all things, just so that way people have an understanding of the effort that goes into it. That was the main purpose of this. And yes, I do see the glob of paint that's on that builds up. That's normal. It's totally okay. As you can see, we're coming towards the end of the this section, this little section here. There's a lot of smaller details I do want to do, but we might not get to, which is totally not the end of the world. It's fine. Yeah, see? Just making black on the outside. I hope the camera angle's good, but I need to be able to get my hands through to actually to paint it. I can't have the camera move too close, otherwise it won't fit with the camera. See that? Excellent. Now the last part I for sure want to paint, not including the wheels, are these parts. See? This, I like having these as black. I want them to be black. I like the style that it provides. I'm gonna paint the sides of the guns black here, and then I think we'll move on with the other details of this. And you'll notice I'm just painting the cover part, not painting everything. You know. Now something I will say though is that my red is a little diluted with black, because I was a fool at one point in my painting, and I made the unfortunate mistake of dipping the same pen in without properly wiping it down, which is never a good thing to do when you go ahead and do the painting portion of your model. And I've learned from that. So you see, you learn things that people don't always tell you. When they say, oh, just paint your model, right? They don't actually show you what you do in the process of painting the model. Now I know you can't see it, it's very dark, so I'll move it up here so you can see I'm painting the top of this part, the red part of that, in order to make it all black. And since I'm painting black again, while it is the easiest color to paint in, it's the worst color to do for video. By far the most difficult part for videos. But it's okay. It's okay, because we have a whole nother gun to paint. What, you think I'm just going to allow only one of the guns to be painted black? Not the other? Nonsense. And again, we're just doing the top parts. We're not saying the whole gun is going to be black, because for tanks I like to have silver guns. That's kind of more of a me thing. Some people like to make them black. Everyone has a right to do their own kind of design. And again, with the small tiny details that may or may not get left out depending on how you paint, you can always go back and paint them in as needed. Then again, going to do some area painting over the second gun, because I think about it like, oh, that's the case, that's a protective shell that's supposed to protect the outside of the gun. Oh, and fun fact, while I don't recommend it necessarily as something to rely on, paint can act kind of like glue. If for whatever reason your supports are not as good, if you get some paint, it'll harden, and it will in fact help hold things together. Though I wouldn't, again, rely on it. Glue is of course the most important part of the tank to have. Let me make sure just looking on the other side. And I will again hold it up close so you can see where I'm painting. But, you know, while this is you do want to go slow and take your time and make sure you're painting safely and efficiently. You also shouldn't be worried. Oh, I hope you don't worry about the seagulls or whatever that sound is. I bet it's seagulls. Something in the window. If you can hear it, I'm sorry. I'm going to try and talk over the very loud birds that are in the background. But they'll go away at some point, I'm sure. Sure they'll go away. It'll be fine. I paint there? No, I did not paint over there. I have to go back and paint something. And you'll find that as you go through and you look for details of things to add on to or things to change, you'll find things that you miss. And then you go back and paint over it, and it's not a big deal. It all works out. It all works out. Heck, there might even be a point where I take with my new black and go over the old black, because this black might get super faded. One thing I will say is about when you don't water down the paint, even though that's maybe a waste of... Yes, I completely acknowledge it's a bit of a waste of paint. You will definitely get more paint out of your things if you put water in it first. But sometimes I like having shinier paints, essentially. Like, it looks brighter. It looks like a brighter kind of thing. And actually, we are mostly good to go, to be completely honest. Besides the treads, of course, which, you know what? Maybe I'll make them silver. I've been making my treads black, but you know what? We're actually really good about here. Let me do some minor details, and then I think we can actually maybe be done with the black. And you don't have to paint everything, right? You can leave stuff unpainted for stylistic reasons, right? And if you're wondering, I'm just these little dots are actually not random. There are little pegs I like to paint on, which can always be tuned up later. But if you look at it, it doesn't look, in my opinion, doesn't look too horrible. Of a kind of a tank, if you know what I mean. See? Doesn't that look looks kind of beefy, kind of nice, right? You got the black outlines. I'm gonna just do a little bit more dot work with some certain detail bits that maybe the camera isn't picking up. Hopefully you are able to see it as I'm holding them up and things. But I'm just going with the flow of the paint here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looking pretty good. I do like to go over here and paint the inside of this cross, if you want to look at where it is. I'm going to paint the inside of that cross there. This is a more difficult one because you're painting inside of a crevice. But if you relax a little and trust your brush, you'll be able to paint it quite well, because I like making the cross part visible. Not because I'm personally religious or anything, I just think it makes it pop. Alright, not sure how much of the video recording got cut out. Something must have happened. So I'm just going to keep going as I go and hope that everything works out. Just an update, I'll spin the tank around a little bit so you can clearly see what I've done. Again, not sure how much got cut out, but this is what's left. Almost done, actually, with the tank. For the black part, we're going to look at using red and silver up next here pretty soon, which will be a lot of fun to do. Maybe something got bumped. Not too sure when it cut out, which is a little unfortunate, I must admit. It is a little bit sad, but again, not the end of the world. I'm happy to recap anything that I missed in the downtime we had. Even though you're not gonna notice any downtime, you're just gonna be like, whoa, random jump cut and things are painted that maybe he didn't show off painting, which is a completely valid thing to say or think based on a recording randomly cutting out. Maybe my camera has a limited amount of recording it can do in a single video. I'm learning every day, guys. Learning every day. But again, that should not stop you guys from going out, and maybe you can even paint along with me. Maybe you decided to build the tank along with me and you want to follow my design. And you know what? Great. If you want to copy this design that I'm doing for painting wise, go ahead. It's not a problem for me. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's going to look nice and all that good stuff. I'm actually going to, if you take a look at this object here while it is drying, we're going to go ahead and, you see these little lines? We're going to paint on these lines very carefully. This is very minor detail stuff that you don't have to do. I just like doing it because it looks good. Oh, see? Paint on your finger. You have tissue for a reason. Always keep that tissue handy, guys. Always keep it handy. Try not to touch the paint, though. I mean, there's a lot of excess paint that comes from this that you kind of have to accept. But darn it, it's good. Yeah, see? Focus more on the tip than anything else of your paintbrush. Be steady. Paint carefully. Oh, sorry. Gotta get you in shot. Gotta show it off. Show off the painting. Can't show off the painting if it's not in the camera view. Which, well, that just sucks, doesn't it? If you can't see what's going on, it's probably not a good thing. Right? I'm gonna take this and we're gonna paint this side as well. If the paint will come off of the paintbrush. Almost done with the black. Just trying to get these last few details, guys. And then it all will be good. All will be good. I know it looks sloppy and gluey like marshmallow, but it's okay. It's just because this paint really is on its last little limbs. And I think I'm actually gonna... Okay, well, I'm gonna finish up some detailing on the physical tank itself, but I'd argue that for the most part, the black is done, which is good. Which is good. I'm gonna go back over some detail spots that I may have missed. Again, just to really make sure that I haven't wasted any black parts. Make sure that all the black that I want on the tank is there. Then we'll move on to the silver. This is actually going to look like a brighter tank than what I normally do. There's actually some black parts I'm completely not painting right now, which is okay. Alright, that's completely fine. We're going to take our paint, close it up. I'm going to cut away and actually wash this brush so that way it doesn't get too horrible. Then we're going to move on to the silver. I'll paint up the silver parts, and then that'll actually wrap it up. We're going to put the painting all in one video, I think. It's going to be a long video. Hope you guys, I mean, hey, more content. I think that's great. More content in a week. So I'll be right back, you guys. Okay, so we're back. Gonna put away the black paint. Gonna grab our Citadel silvery gray paint. We're actually gonna use a different paintbrush. It's gonna be a little bit of a bigger one, a little thicker. Oh yeah, definitely have a lot of paint in this one. So not as worried about the silver paint. I don't have a lot of silver on my army. I just kind of use the silver because, one, I like to follow a simple rule of have more than 2 colors on your stuff. So the main thing we're going to be painting, yes, this is just going right after, so got to be careful. But we're going to be painting on the guns. We're mainly painting the guns silver, and I'm still yet to decide if I want the treads to be silver. They might be silver just because due to paint, and hey, it'll make this tank stand out a little bit. So this is very wet paint. That's something very important to keep in mind. The other 2 paints, the red one and the I'm gonna set that down actually. It's not good. Not gonna hold that while painting. But you'll note, if you can see it, this paint is very wet, very loose. But don't you dare be afraid of overusing or underusing it. Just paint add the amount that you feel is necessary to make the paint look good and sticky. And see, you can already tell the silver is working. You might have to go into multiple layers of it. Don't feel worried about overdoing or underdoing it. Again, just paint the parts that look fine for you. This is my first time painting a las cannon, and as a circle-y type of weapon, you want to make sure that you do have a thick layer, but then once that layer is placed, don't touch it. Don't add more than needed, because you can pull off the paint that you put on, and that's no good either. You don't if you're pulling off the paint that you're putting on, then you're just wasting paint. So as you can see, it's starting to I can even tell from the camera, you can tell that some of it's falling off. That's okay. It's not bad. Just take your time with it. Again, I try and let it sit. You might need to glob on more paint than necessary. If you even really wanted to, you can dunk the your guns in the paint. And I only like to paint silver for the cannons. And and I guess, you know what, I'll just do the treads in the silvery paint also. While it may not stick as much, and if I decide to go over it in black, you can. You can always go back over your own mistakes. One thing I like about painting is you can always cover things up to an extent, though. Now, this is going to be hard for you guys to physically see, but I'm just painting the inside interior, harder to spot version of, or I guess not version, but part of the weapon itself. Again, these guns, while I do not have that many to paint, they require a lot of attention. Like an absurd amount. You want to do just enough and then some. See? The gun, I know you guys can see it in the camera because it's all silver now. It's not just red like the rest of the tank. It's really not sticking though, which is unfortunate. So you see, remember how I had said I was going to cover up the weird gray part? Well, that's because the whole part's going to be kind of silvery and grayish, which is awesome. And yes, the black is drying, and that's good. And there's a couple things other than the there's a couple parts other than the guns that are going to be silver. These vents are actually going to be silver as well, like all silver. But I find that painting round sections, especially with the with the silver paint, can be quite tricky because well, one, this is incredibly wet paint. I'm very tempted to let it get a little hard, actually. I'm tempted to leave it open overnight. But that's not good for the paint. And I don't encourage that or endorse that in any way. But it could work to make it better. Even on the other gun, it's really not sticking. I don't know why it's not sticking at all. Interesting. Right? Because I'm just doing a thin layer. It's like it fades away. It's like it doesn't want to be painted on. It's very strange. It's quite the strange thing. But you kind of got to keep at it. And one thing I like about painting the guns is that it's really relaxing. I don't need to worry too much about the, being precise with this paint, because this paint drives me nuts. But it looks so good when it's done. Like when it actually works out. This is one of those times where you might need multiple layers of paint, where you sit, you let it dry, then you put on more paint. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering from the last time I made these, I put paint on these weapons. You kind of gotta just, let the paint do its thing. Dry. I'm going back over the old parts because hopefully parts will dry and, the minor things. So, let me show you what some other parts are that we're painting silver. Not a lot, but the tops of these are meant to be silver. Wow, that is so watery. That is actually ridiculously watery. If you can't tell, I'm painting the vents there on the sides. That's the other silvery part besides the guns, and now I'm suddenly thinking I don't want to make the tread silver if it's going to take this long for the paint to work. I know you can't see it, or hopefully you can't see it, but I do have I'm resting my head on my hand because it's frustrating. It's not, I'm not gonna lie, it's frustrating to paint these things silver. Maybe it's because of the spray paint, maybe it doesn't like catching it. That's totally a possibility. Maybe it's the type of spray paint I used. All kinds of reasons why maybe the paint isn't gonna sit nicely on the gun, even though it really ought to be sitting well on the gun, because eventually eventually if I wanted to, I could probably dunk the weapon in the paint, let it sit for a little while, and it would it would work. It would work. If I move this over here to the side, you can get a nice good look at the las cannons here as I paint them. Yeah, they're gonna move around. Yeah, it happens. I'll just show off trying to dunk it. This is something I do not necessarily recommend because it could go horrible. Can they even fit? Yes, they can. So you dunk them in, pull them out, you got a nice thick layer. See how thick that is? If I don't mess with it, it will dry on and it will in fact work. It'll stick, it'll be good, it'll be great. So now you take a look at that thickness, and then you want to go ahead and take your paint, mix it around. I'll try mixing the paint a bit. Try and make it a little more solid. And then you put on massive globs. Because hey, if it's going to melt off, may as well make it a bit of a challenge for it to melt off, right? That's always something to keep in mind. If it's not going to want to paint, again, mix it up. Maybe mixing it up is the key. I'll mix it up some more. Then maybe paint on the main tank again. See if that helps. No, it just keeps falling. Just keeps falling. Well, no, actually, no. It's sticking a bit better. This is one of those paints where you got to do multiple layers. You can't just do one layer, call it good, like what we did with the black. With the black, you didn't need to do more than one layer. Partly because it was harder paint, it was thicker. But yeah, these you really just got to be patient with a little. Maybe I put on a little too much paint actually on the tips of these. Oh well. Not necessarily our problem. You'll notice that the cardboard itself is not getting paint on it. It's sticking. Right? We know it is. We know this. But for some reason, it just doesn't want to stay. Okay. So, looks like the guns are coming out a bit better. And you'll see, like if I wanted to, I could stop right now, wait for everything to dry, then repaint on them. Good. Okay. So, set that edge, alright. Using the paintbrush to move it a bit. Painting on the sides here. Because people do look at you know, you're painting and see how much goes into it. And one good thing about this paint is that it does make the gun really pop. Right? The silver will pop compared to all of the other elements of your tank. And again, don't worry about mistakes. Red will I have plenty of red to be putting on. It's the colors that aren't red where you gotta kind of be not afraid to go a little nuts with. Now, here's the tricky part. With loose paint, I'm just showing you, you lift it up and you paint the undersides. You just do it. You have to. There's no choice. Things might slide off on the top. That's why, in my opinion, you should wait. But I'm not going to for the purposes of this video. Also, because I don't want you guys to watch me, you know, fiddle about with minor things that don't necessarily have the same urgent needs as others. And just paint over these and these. And again, it'll look nicer than it may immediately look as we're painting down the silver, even though most guns are in fact black. In the 40k universe, I'm going with silver guns. Kind of like battleship guns, when you think about it. And they look pretty good. I think the top of our tank will look quite nice. We're going to move back over to the tank. We're going to let that gun piece sit for a minute. We're going to go ahead and get to work on our silver. Gonna whisk it around. And now, actually, as I'm stirring it, I'm realizing maybe we can use silver for the tire treads. I don't know. I really don't know. It's quite a fascinating little thing here. Again, never be afraid about making mistakes. I will say that as much as possible, because in my opinion, if you learn nothing from this, for whatever reason, and you just decide, oh, well, that was kind of dumb, this was kind of a waste. Well, let me tell you something. If you're going to learn anything, don't be afraid to paint. Don't be afraid to let horrifying things happen, because when I started, I was terrified. I did not want to make a mistake and have to paint over things, because I thought once you paint something, it's permanent. It can't be fixed, but it can. And people who think that things can't be fixed end up going crazy over this stuff. Especially if you're a more aggressive person. I'm not a very aggressive person, but if you're a more violent person, you might break your models, and then look what you've done. Then you've ruined everything, and that's not what we want. Gonna paint over the gun some more, because again, paint's sticking. The paint is sticking. Mix wetter paint when possible, and then just tap it over. You don't even need to brush, like long sweeping brushes. You just tap it on and it'll go great. Now keep in mind, your opponent will, you know, they might ask to look at your model, and always say yes to that. I'm a big believer of sharing your work with others, but you know, what we're doing right now is painting this thing to what's called tabletop quality standards, which is a minimum of 3 colors. We have red, black, and we're gonna have silver. Why no green? Because Blood Angels, by the way, if you didn't know, Blood Angels do have green eye areas where they look through. Why am I blanking out on this? Their masks. Their masks are green, right? They have green eyes. But I don't use green. I don't find a need for it. For such a minor detail, it wasn't really worth spending $7 on paint for me. You might think differently, and you can put more detail into this thing than I can. I'm sure at least one person who's watching this is probably going to do better at painting this tank than me, and I'd love to see the tank. If you link it in the comments section below, I will happily look at your tank. I will shout you out in a video, even if you want, with a picture of the tank. If you want to, that's totally fine, because I'm a big believer of sharing other people's work, just as I would hope someone would want to share my work. If they saw it just laying around, they'd be like, hey, look at this guy. Looking around. I am making a bit of mistakes here. Nothing you're seeing here is perfect. I'm no master painter. I'm merely a painter. And this is my favorite part of the construction side of the hobby. I don't like the building part. I don't find it very fun. with all the cutting and the gluing and stuff. It's more frustrating, but the painting, now that I can get behind. Now I like to paint the vents all the way down to the part where they stop being vents. That's just a me thing. You don't have to. But I like to go all the way down to the vents. And then when all this stuff dries, I thought about it, and I guess I'll go ahead and paint the tracks silver. It'll be a nice touch. I won't have to go buy more paint. It'll look good. It'll look different. All my tanks look a little bit different. And I think while uniformity is nice, nothing wrong with a little bit of difference. Especially in the Blood Angels chapter. We could always use some fresh new ideas. Oh, I've moved the camera. And I know it's far away. Let's get that closer. So you see, I'm painting silver on these things. Silver is a really cool color. It's all metallic. It makes the tank feel more like a machine. Makes it seem like, hey, maybe this isn't too nuts at all. Now, important note though. Important. While I am painting all these details with different colors, the core of your tank should still be red. Unless it's going to be Death Company, in which case you want to spray paint the tank black, then like beforehand, and then paint red highlights. Unless it's going to be like a special death cut, for lore creativity purposes. Like for example, if you're going to be Blood Angels, I will say using green or blue or yellow or a non-red color or black is no one's going to think you're a Blood Angel. They're going to say, what are you talking about? Don't you know anything about the Blood Angels? And that is something to keep in mind, because keep in mind, though I'm making variations on the this concept of the tank, I am in no way doing anything to deface or change the continuity of my army. I'm not risking my guys being looked at as not Blood Angels. You can't look at a red tank in 40k and tell me that you can't tell me this tank isn't a Blood Angel tank. Is my point. But if I made this tank pink and said it was part of the Blood Angels, well, not sure I'd get away with that. Now you can, if your whole army's pink, say because there's no pink faction, you could pick, another. You could just say, oh, I'm just wanted to be unique, and that's fine. And most people are cool with it, but I'm mainly also thinking of tournaments. Like if you want to take your army to a tournament, I would just recommend, for simplicity's sake, going ahead and just painting the traditional colors. If you have a side army or a narrative fun fluff army, paint it however you want. I don't care how you paint it. But I want you guys to be able to play the game. Because ultimately, this is a game. Even if all these videos you've been watching so far have not made it seem like it's a game, and it's more of a really, really long project that takes hours and hours, well, think about it. How many videos I've made and how long each video is. And those are, I did not leave anything out as best as I could for the actual building process. So yeah, one thing I like to paint is these windows. And yes, I'm getting paint all over my hands. Don't be squeamish about getting paint on your hands either. I like to paint these windows. They ought to be, silver, there are windows. It's not like that's really going to be horrifying. If you have silver windows. This is certainly a more silver tank than I've made. This tank has more silver on it than my other tanks. Maybe that's just what makes it unique. Who knows? So I'm going to go ahead and cut to when everything's dry and I've painted and we're going to go ahead and paint the treads silver, because that's the last thing I want to talk about, and then our tank is going to be done. Hooray! Obviously, if I need to, I will say if I off camera have made the guns look better and more silvery, it's because I need it to work. So that I might do off camera. But otherwise, I'll be right back with the making of the silver tank treads. Hooray for final episode! So I've decided to make a decision about how I'm going to be doing the painting. I've decided I'm just going to go ahead and use the Citadel Iron Breaker paint, the silver paint that I also used on the guns for the las cannons, and I'm going to go ahead and just use that for the tire treads to make it simple. Also, because I personally, anyway, I don't really want to have to paint. Well, I essentially don't want to have to go out and buy black paint just for being able to essentially get the same results. And I noticed this on the las cannons, right? The bottom of them, they still need some paint work done. Now the tops look really good, right? It looks good, hardly noticeable, but on the bottom, we're still gonna need some paint job work to be done. So I am gonna do that simultaneously with painting the tire treads, but the primary focus of this last little section, before YouTube decides to get angry at me because I'm uploading a video that's super long, we're gonna go ahead and just do the tire treads right now. And I'm probably only going to paint like one side for you, because again, I really want to avoid, if possible, this video going on for longer than an hour, because if it goes on longer than an hour, it possibly might not get uploaded to YouTube for me, because my channel doesn't have 1,000 subscribers yet. So let's hopefully make this a good one. Now I'm just shaking up the paint right now. I'm going to go ahead and dip my paintbrush in the Iron Breaker paint. And I'm going to go ahead and start painting. So, what you want to do when you're painting for the tire treads with this paint is you just kind of want to just make it kind of thick, right? So we're thickly painting on what we want, right? And it's essentially that process. I mean, look, this part of the painting is really straightforward and easy. All right, now I could be using a bigger brush, but I like to use a smaller brush so I can make sure I'm getting in all the crevices as well. Because it's very clear when you're not getting in all the crevices, if that makes sense. If I explain that correctly. You know, so you just focus on making sure each section is good. And this part will take time. This is a lot of surface area to cover. And again, feel free to use a bigger brush. I just like using a smaller brush because it lets me be more precise and make sure I'm getting every little part of the treads figured out here. And while I'm not going to actually also due to time, I'm not going to make it sit through this entire process of me painting the tire tread. I'm going to quickly move on to the gun. So I'm going to turn it so you can see better. And you'll notice I'm only going to be painting on spots where it makes sense. I'm not going to put the paint on places where it'd be kind of dumb to put paint. If that makes sense, I'm not going to be putting paint on like the bar or anything that helps hold the gun in place, you know. I'm only going to be putting paint where it just needs some touch-ups and some finishing work to really just give it that full silvery look. You know, make it stand out. Like, we can feel free to pick it up and turn it so you can get in there on the other side of the paint. Now remember, with this paint, feel free to add on multiple layers. It'll spill, it'll roll off the sides. So feel free to be very, you know, what's the word when you spend a lot? Ubiquitous with your paint. Be expansive, and yeah, that's really all there is to the painting. And as soon as this is done, because again, I don't want you guys to sit through everything, this is actually going to be it for the video. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We got through an entire building of a Predator tank. I'd say that's a success. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. I'm Elwirfy, and I will see you guys next time.